and the news business is so starved for revenue that they'll bend to anybody basically.
Did you see that? I mean, I know Jimmy Dore covered it, but quite a few other people have realized it now. The amount of money that Bill Gates has spent on influencing media.
No, I didn't.
It's somewhere in the neighborhood of $300 million.
Jeez.
He's donated to these various media organizations, which for sure has some sort of an impact on how they cover him.
Right. Well, of course, yeah. And look, once upon a time, we were, I've said it many times, we were trained to know that, for instance, think tanks, right? Like who was funding them, because think tanks are who get quoted in the New York Times and the Washington Post, right? So they're generating research that goes to journalists.
Wait, can you guys describe to me why Kyle Rittenhouse was running around with his gun away from the property? Because he wasn't who was defending the property then? Was it on fire when Kyle Rittenhouse wasn't at the property? Because he was running around with his AR-15 in other places. Before we get to the fucking dumbass Jimmy Dore conversation here, why was he just like walking around? You think?
Merry Christmas chat, and Hasan feels okay, man.
Was he also, maybe he was looking around to defend other properties as well. He was like, well, I'm already done defending this private property. Time to defend the other private properties as well. All the haters jumping to dump on JD at least know what you're talking about.
Or something, but I would like to have socks with.
Yeah, I know.
So cool.
I know what I'm fucking talking about when I dump on Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore is getting the anti-vaxxer bag, boys. That's just that is exactly what's going on.
Like who was funding them, because think tanks are who get quoted in the New York Times and the Washington Post, right? So they're generating research that goes to journalists, and like sort of surreptitiously that ends up.
You're joking about it, but that's literally it. Kyle was floating between car source parking lots. Okay. You're kidding, right? I feel like you're kidding. Because you're saying Army medics don't even carry rifles. Why didn't he try to heal the people he shot? Certified medic. Okay, you're that's a joke. Okay. For a second, I was just like, holy fuck. Saying that was his defense. Yeah. Drove across state lines. He got an AR there to defend the property that wasn't his. Don't forget the video 14 days before where he said he wished he had his AR-15 so he could shoot at people he thought were stealing from CVS. He lied about having EMT training multiple times, and he pointed his gun at people before the actual shooting. No one attacked the lots with the hog larpers. They were the ones who walked out of those places to chase us, and the police Bearcats funneled us there. That's true. That's the part that we always forget. So the police do know how to do crowd management. So for the record, they do get trained for crowd control. One of the parts that is often not discussed is the police involvement in this shooting, which is that they purposely pushed. They knew exactly where the fucking dudes with the guns were, and they purposely pushed the BLM protesters towards the dudes with the guns. They also knowingly the reason why I'm saying they knew where the fuck the dudes with the guns were, because they saw them walk by them before and literally said, "You're doing a great job, brother." They gave him fucking water and shit like that. The leader of the police group said he was in contact with the police, and they said that they were going to push the protesters there for us to handle. Yeah. Oh, what the fuck is this? Genuinely wanting to see for myself. Where'd you find out that the police did this? They covered it extensively. They covered this entire story extensively. It just never got really talked about as much. They were being pushed away from certain parts towards certain areas. The area where the gas station is literally where the gunmen were. Anyway.
Becoming what's covered. And so that's how, like, the Gates Foundation, for instance, will work its way into coverage. It'll sponsor research in an area like education. That's one of the things I'm covering now. And its research becomes, it gets into the news that way. But we were supposed to once have, our ears up and be conscious of who was paying for all this research. Where was that information coming from? And people don't really even think about it now.
See if you can find that story, Jamie.
I'm looking right now. I'm reading an article about someone.
Wow, did you know the chief of police? Yeah. The only way that you can reasonably infer something is not by looking at context or doing any reading. You have to literally be there, be the chief of police, or know the chief of police.
Last year, actually, I was looking into it. Here, I'll show you. Journalism's Gatekeepers is what it's called. This
Columbia
is
Journalism
CJR.
Review.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a respected
Yeah,
publication?
no, I mean, look, they've had their issues, but that's the top media criticism
right here.
outlet, right?
Okay, so this is last year. It says a recently examined nearly 20,000 charitable grants the Gates Foundation made through the end of June and found that more than $250 million going towards journalism.
Mm-hmm.
Receipts included news operations like the BBC, NBC, Al Jazeera, ProPublica, National Journal, The Guardian, Univision, Medium, The Financial Times, The Atlantic, The Texas Tribune, Gannett, Washington Monthly, Le Monde, is that how I say it?
Yeah, Le Monde. Mm-hmm.
And the Center for Investigative Reporting, charitable organizations affiliated with news outlets like BBC Media Action, the New York Times, Neediest Cases Fund, media companies such as The Participant, whose documentary Waiting for Superman supports Gates' agenda on charter schools, journalistic organizations such as the Pulitzer Center on crisis reporting, the National Press Foundation, and the International Center for Journalists, and a variety of other groups creating news content or working on journalism, such as the Leo Burnett Company, an ad agency that Gates commissioned to create a news site to promote the success of aid groups. In some cases, recipients say they distributed part of the funding as sub-grants to other journalistic organizations, which makes it difficult to see the full picture of Gates' funding into the Fourth Estate.
Yeah, and as a reporter, you may or may not be aware of all the different ways that money will get in, work its way into the business. But unconsciously, it just sort of seeps in. Like,
right.
And that's how it works. Like, nobody comes and tells you, well, don't cover this. Well, maybe they do now, actually. Or take this approach to covering education. What ends up happening is that you just kind of get a feel based on the reaction of your editor to whatever pitch you're giving at the moment. Hey, would you be interested in this story about whether or not this approach to standardized testing worked, right? And if the editor says, yeah, that's interesting, maybe, right, then just never to broach that again, right? But if it's with, in the right ideological slant, they're going to be hot for it, right?
Interesting.
And that's how it works. That's how it works with everything. It works, with foreign policy. When I worked in Russia, if you pitched a story to an American editor about how the U.S. funded.
For the record, if you talk about this without mentioning how, like, supposedly quote unquote right-wing billionaires also do the exact same thing, or rather the fact that like being a billionaire automatically means you're above the left-right dichotomy, and straight the fuck up are just funding both sides and every outlet, because every outlet is fucking created to churn propaganda that defends you and defends the institutions that make you money and the system that makes you the billions of dollars. You're a fucking grifter. Sorry, it's just so selective at this point that it just feels like you're just doing this for agitprop. Something that Republican propagandists do regularly. Okay? Republican propagandists do this regularly, where they're just like, oh man, you know, those corporate elitists, we fucking hate those corporations, right? We fucking hate them. You know, those corporations, the ones that are left-wing, supposedly. Yeah, left-wing corporations like what, Facebook? You know, the socialist Jeff Bezos. And the problem is, Matt knows better. He knows better. He's interviewed Noam Chomsky. He wrote a book that he believes was like the successor of manufacturing consent. He's like tried to apply manufacturing consent into the internet. He knows that this is straight up just a both sides issue. Not even a side. There's only one side.
Honestly, I've loved being in this community, and I can't wait.
Yeah,
for
the
more good times
Griftopia
watching
writer
the
is
world
now a
burn down
right-wing
around us.
grifter. Like, that's so sad.
Reform effort was working, and there was a growing middle class in provincial Russia that was prospering, and people were now taking vacations to Ibiza and stuff like that. You could get anybody to buy that story. But if you came to them with a story about how actually, the transformation of capitalism has been...
He's not a grifter. You just have selective hearing. You're framing. Hasan, you are the one being selective and you're listening. They both call out the corporatocracy on both sides of the aisle. Your framing of their discussion reveals your own biases. My biases towards what? You dumb bitch. My biases towards what? That like a person who I literally fucking loved and saw as an incredibly influential figure in my life, who now constantly fucking writes articles about how, you know, Black Lives Matter rioters are terrible, or some fucking freshman got upset at their college professor, and this is why this is why Western civilization is fucking falling apart with like less words. Okay? I straight up just mentioned that it's not even a both sides thing. There is no sides. There's only one fucking way to look at it, and that is through the lens of class.
Can't wait to go crazy and turn on you in a month at Hasanabi.
Really slow. People have lost their health care. There's an explosion of violent crime and addiction, and people are more and more gravitating towards right-wing politics, in large part because of the rapid changes that they weren't ready for. You could not get that story sold, right? So what ended up happening...
You peddle socialist talking points like a hog, totally biased and grossly closed-minded. Are you mad that it works? Like, I don't understand. Yeah, my style or my rhetoric is closer to the fucking common man than some dickhead who has basically lost the fucking plot because he's lost himself in
Keep
books.
up the great
It's
work.
agitative propaganda. You know? Also, you wrote pedal, which is funny. Like, I also pedal fucking top of the hour ads, okay? I pedal top of the hour ads at the top of every hour. And if you no longer want to see those fucking ads, all you need to do is subscribe. You can get a gifty sub, potentially. And by the way, yes, of course I'm biased. Yeah, I admit that I'm biased. Anyone who tells you that they're unbiased or that they are being objective on a fucking matter, that they don't see any side, they're lying to you. They are, of course, biased. Everyone's fucking biased. You're biased, idiot. The difference is I tell you what my biases are. I wear it on my fucking chest. Okay?
Dodging the ads, easy clap.
I'm biased towards the top of the hour ad break. And it's coming right now. But if you fucking subscribe for $5, or if you don't have $5, you can subscribe for free. Okay, with a Twitch Prime, that is. And you no longer need to see those ads. There's a 1 minute ad break now.
When I was in Russia, is they kept sending back all these positive reports about what was happening.
Expert05, thank you.
And Americans got this idea that things in Russia were going great, you know, and the company was really prospering. In fact, you know, I was doing stories when I was there about how money didn't even exist in the villages. Like the only people who would actually have cash in most remote Russian villages would be pensioners, because they would get it, you know, once a month from the mail system. I went to places where the people actually bought and sold things with moonshine, like the Russian equivalent of moonshine, because that was like a unit of currency.
Wow.
They were doing subsistence farming. I mean, it was completely fucked, life in rural Russia. But if you picked up the New York Times, what you read is, you know, the emerging middle class was doing great. You know, people have VCRs in Samara and stuff like that. And that's how it works. Like you get a sense of what they want, you give it to them, and you know, over time you just stop thinking about it. But it's not a healthy way to do it.